So I can keep an eye on where I am. Okay. Welcome everyone. This is my first experience of delivering a webinar, and as you mentioned just now, my name is Chris Penny, and for my sins I am the course leader for the BSc Honours Social Work Programme at the University of Portsmouth. I am a registered social worker. I've been in social work for a number of years, and I would describe social work as being the best job that you could ever have in the world. It does, however, take a pound of flesh at times, and it is a job which is particularly challenging at times, but very rewarding. So let's see where we go with the presentation. My aim is to give you a couple of definitions of social work, to talk a little bit about the protected title of social work, to look at some sources of information that you can explore and maybe encourage students to explore a bit further, to look at the importance of professional and personal values for somebody that is planning to come on a social work programme, to look at the qualifications generally that are accepted for entry to an undergraduate programme, to look at UCAS applications and the timeframes of those applications, to consider some basic aspects around what makes a good application, to talk about some of the additional checks that are necessary to undertake for persons that are coming into professions such as social work, where you are working with potentially vulnerable persons, to look at those checks in a bit more detail, to look at some areas of study that are universal across all programs, and then to look at the employment opportunities that are available within social work, and finally to look at some postgraduate alternative routes into social work. So hopefully that will meet most of the needs that I've been asked to address. I'm not a person that likes to read off PowerPoint, so I'm going to just talk over this and let you read those definitions, one from the International Federation of Social Work and one from the British Association of Social Work. But to me, I was sitting just for a moment thinking about what is social work. And for me, social work is about practitioners being consciously aware of the sources of knowledge that inform their practice. And that knowledge comes from a fairly diverse range of legislative, policy guidance, from practitioner experience, from theories of social work practice, from research into social work, and most importantly from the lived experiences of those people that we serve, the service users, the clients, the patients, the customers of social work practice. So being aware consciously of the knowledge, having good, in fact excellent communication skills to engage people, to explore their lives, ensuring that dignity is maintained or promoted in our practice for persons that we're working with, and developing a notion of returning control of people's lives to them, enabling people to have control, the best control that they can of their own lives. So those are to me, the important aspects of social work, but I dare say that the International Federation and Basler's definitions are more succinct than mine. Okay. Social work is a legally protected title and can only be used by persons that have undertaken a social work qualifying programme and then gone on to register with the Healthcare Professions Council as a registrant on their processes. Okay. To use the title social worker without that registration is both inappropriate because it's misleading to our service users and, as I have said, is illegal. Now, we have student social workers that are out in placement, and as long as they refer to themselves as a student of social work, then that is not illegal. But to use the title otherwise in a way that is intentionally misleading is. So just a note of caution in that sense. Sources of information for yourselves and for your students. These are three general sources of information. The top right-hand side, as you view it, the Healthcare Professions Council, is our regulatory body and has considerable information about standards of practice, and ethical standards that are applicable to social workers in practice. Has some information about the learning standards for social work that I have to adhere to as well. It also runs, sadly to say, the disciplinary processes for registrants that, for whatever reason, are deemed to be failing or struggling in their practice. So the Healthcare Professions Council is a good site of knowledge for potential candidates to access. On the top left-hand side, you have the British Association of Social Workers. This has been, I refer to it very often as a private membership organisation, whereas all registered social workers must be registered with the HCPC. BASWA is a professional organisation that you can elect to become a member of. However, the baseline standards of practice that are provided by the HCPC are simply that, baseline standards of practice, whereas BASWA hosts and supports aspirational standards of practice for social workers and holds a great deal of knowledge around the profession that I would counsel prospective students to access. And then finally at the bottom there, you have reference to the Social Care Institute of Excellence, which has considerable information which relates to social care across the spectrum. So not just social work, has a lot of health considerations within there as well. But again, an excellent source of information. And the three of these graphics are all hyperlinks. So if you download the presentation, you'll be able to access those directly from the presentation. Thank you. Okay. So I want to state that social work is premised upon strong professional values. And very often students come on our programme exhibiting a range of personal values which are sometimes in tension with the set of professional standards that are expected of a social worker. And the course will go through those expectations, those professional standards, and will seek to guide and promote in the social work student adherence to professional standards. And what we find over the 3-year programme is that actually their professional standards and their personal standards start to coalesce and become a single unity in the individual. Many students come on the course and we will say to them that the experience of going through the 3 years of academic learning and the 3 years of practice placements learning will change your perception of the world. You will see things in its myriad shades of grey rather than simplistic notions of right or wrong. You will start to question what are the social experiences, what are the background experiences of the individuals that we're working with that has led them to make maybe difficult choices in their lives or poor choices, or maybe to have impeded choices in life as well. So the range of values that are promoted within social work, you can see 5 on the top. That notion of preserving human dignity and worth, notions of social justice, and that equality, that trying to work with people to lift their access to services and their entitlement to services under a social justice construct. To see yourselves as an agent of the state, but also a service provider as a social worker, that you are there providing resources, services, access to resources to our clientele. And that you must undertake all of this with a sense of integrity, that you are honest, that you know the limits of your abilities and of your knowledge. You seek to consult where appropriately. That if you commit to undertaking a task, that you actually do undertake that task. You do it in a timely way, and that you do it with good grace, good honesty, good dignity preservation for the service user. And throughout, what we're trying to develop is professional competence for our students and for all social workers. So some of the qualifications next that you will need in order to come on a social work programme. All programmes will expect students to have GCSE Maths and English at grade C or equivalent. Those equivalents are listed underneath there. And in terms of UCAS points, they vary between the various HEIs, universities that you may be applying to. But generally speaking, it's not uncommon for 2 core A-levels to be at a grade B or above, plus other additional points from an AS level perspective. In the older version of UCAS points, you're looking at about 280 to 300 points. I believe the current UCAS points have changed to around about 112 to 115 as the general kind of access requirements. The subjects that we expect students to bring to us from their A-levels are as listed there: critical thinking, English, health and social care, law, and many of the ologies: philosophy, psychology, sociology, criminology, anthropology, those kind of subject matters. And they actually cross over onto the access courses, as well as some of the similar kind of areas of learning that we'd want you to bring. So we do accept access courses in health and social care, but we would ask that the subjects that people take within those access courses largely emulate those that we would expect from the AS levels. If in doubt, then consult with your individual HEI. Most courses would accept BTECs, national diplomas, cash diplomas, etc., at various levels of grading. And again, I would encourage you to consult with your individual HEIs for the very specifics that they are asking in terms of eligibility to go on their programs. Okay, so that's a list of qualifications generally that we would expect. It's now time to think about your UCAS application, and well, the books are open already as we speak. From middle of October this year, applications are being accepted for social work programs. We're just beginning to schedule our first interview processes for successful paper sifts from those applications. So you'll make your application via UCAS, and they will be filtered by the individual HEIs that you apply to. And remember that you can apply to up to 5 universities, 5 higher education institutions for the programs that you're interested in. They will filter the paper applications, and generally speaking, most social work programs will invite you for an individual interview. Those individual interviews are wanting to understand what is it that makes you tick, what are your core values, what are your interests in terms of why you want to be a social worker. So really I would encourage candidates to have done their homework to understand what is social work, and to think long and hard what motivates them to want to be a social worker. 99 out of 100 students will come to their interview and say, it's because I want to help people. Well, actually, sometimes you're working with resistant or reluctant service users, clients, who would rather you weren't in their lives. So actually, wanting to help people is quite a simplistic notion. Help may be help that's not desired by the service user that you're working with. I would expect students to actually kind of dig a little bit deeper than that about what motivates them to want to be a social worker. Okay, so you've had your paper sift, you've been invited for interview. Some of those interviews may have other constructs with them. Might require you to do a piece of written work, maybe require you to do a piece of group work during the interview day. That varies across HEIs. You hopefully will then be made an offer, and those offers are either an unconditional offer, which says that you have all of the qualifications that that university wishes from you, and you then have a choice of whether you accept that unconditional offer or not. Or the second offer that you may be made is, particularly for those that are still at college or at sixth form, is a conditional offer, so saying that actually we like what we're seeing, you meet our expectations in that sense, subject to the qualifications grades that you achieve. We would like you to join us. So that would be a conditional offer. And I probably need to mention at this point that the importance of actually accepting and making clear your intentions with an offer can have a profound impact upon such issues as currently the NHS Business Services Agency provide bursaries to students in their second and third year of the undergraduate programme. And they're fairly substantial bursaries, just under £5,000 grants for each year of those two final years. They are not universally available. For instance, our university takes 50 students per intake, but we have 34 bursaries. The importance of accepting your offer as soon as possible is that those that accept first are prioritised by our university to receive the bursaries. And I cannot speak necessarily for other universities, but I would imagine that they follow a similar process of allocation of limited bursaries. So it's important to think about accepting the offers that are made to you. Okay. All right. Happy to take questions on that towards the end. Okay. So what makes a good application? Well, a comprehensive statement. From that, I would want to see some knowledge and understanding of the profession of social work. Yeah. I would want to see some commitment, some motivation, some enthusiasm towards the subject of social care and social work. And often that is conveyed by some of the things that are seen on the screen: volunteering, paid social care employment, educational placements in the social care settings. If you can, as an applicant, if you can articulate that you've actually had a look at some aspects of social care, either from paid or from volunteering, that will strengthen your application. So that relevant work or voluntary experience. And then talk about your personal qualities. You know, what is it that is important to you in terms of your value base? So that would be helpful in your application. Let's not leave aside that the presentation, the grammar, the sentence construct, the syntax of your application are all important considerations. Your applicants are seeking to come to a professional qualifying program where there is an integration of practice and theory and academic learning. And to write well in the university is important, but to write well in practice is absolutely essential in order to make sure that there is clarity in your professional recording about vulnerable persons' lives. So a good, well-written, but providing some of the evidence of the subjects that I've mentioned would be helpful. Okay, it's important that students are able to provide a good work or academic reference from their backgrounds as well. So ensuring that references are available and timely available for your application. Okay. Applicants that are wanting to come on to a social work course will undertake a minimum of 2 practice placements. They can be slightly different shaped depending on the university that you're at. For example, ours are 70 days in year 2, 100 days in the final year, the 3rd year. Those practice placements will see the individuals working with highly vulnerable, distressed at times, individuals that have core needs of social work services. In order to feel safe that they are competent and capable and the right persons to work in practice, all social work students in all universities will be subject to an enhanced level disclosure and barring check. And if there are any issues in the applicant's background, they need to declare that on their UCAS statement. If they do not make a declaration on their UCAS statement, but then the disclosure and barring check reveals that there is some issues in their past, then that would be looked on very unfavourably by the university. If there are issues to be disclosed that will be found on your DBS checks, then that doesn't necessarily bar you from going into social work. We need to look at the nature of those offences, and we also need to look at the proximity of those offences to your application as well. But the universities, individual universities, will guide you on that. Applicants will also be required to undertake an occupational health report check, which means that students will be asked to provide a GP's report, and then subject to that report will be met by our own retained occupational health therapists to to provide guidance on any changes or any enhancements, any adjustments that we may need to make for that individual whilst on the program. Okay. So what will students study? A whole range of subjects, and these are subjects that are prescribed to us by the Health and Care Professions Council. So you'll find these subjects maybe slightly different labelled, but they will be universal to all programs. So there will be a range of social work theories and interventions that will be studied. Human growth and development from pre-birth to end of life will be studied. Social work is premised upon law and social policy, so any course will have a significant element of social policy and legislation to be delivered on the program. Social work skills of interventions in practice. Social workers do not practice in isolation. They work across multi-professional teams and intra-professional teams as well. So there'll be a strong element of interprofessional working. There'll be elements of subject specialisms around children and families, adult services, mental health, domestic violence, substance misuse, etc., etc., etc. So very subject-specific issues will be taught as well. There'll be work around assessments, decision-making, risk analysis, those aspects. A stronger emphasis on reflective practice will be delivered in all programs. Safeguarding as a core issue for practice. Professional writing for practice, as I mentioned earlier, the importance of writing well. Practice placements. So the practice placements are an opportunity for students to integrate their wider knowledge, the theories of learning that they've experienced in university work, and then implement those theories and that wider knowledge within practice. And in any program that is delivering an honours-based program will be required that you undertake a dissertation, that students undertake a dissertation. Dissertations are generally of a subject choice of the individual student and will be a final piece of work somewhere in the region of 8,000 to 12,000 words as a final piece of work. Okay. So what are the employment opportunities for social workers? They are vast, they are huge, and it's one of the I think one of the strengths of retaining a generic social work program. There's two, in 2011, the government at the time commissioned two reports, one by Croysdale Appleby and the other one will come to me in a second. And those two reports concluded that the continuation of social work as a generic program, not a specific specialism program, one in children's services, one in adult services, was essential. And so the course leads to career opportunities in the whole gambit of opportunities that you see before you. And generally speaking, the employability rates of social work students are very high. In the high 90% of those that graduate achieve employment within 6 months of graduation. And generally speaking, their salaries are quite reasonable as well. Students that graduated last year were starting on levels around 26,000 to 27,000 for a graduate position. So, you know, pretty reasonable employment opportunities. And the other person I was thinking of is Martin Neri, N-A-R-E-Y. So those two were the reports that spoke about the necessity for retaining the generic nature of the teaching programs. There are opportunities for qualifying in social work in different ways. So you could, if you've got a first degree, if a student's got a first degree, they can apply to go on an MSc program or an MA program in social work. They could apply to go on the Step Up to Social Work program or the Frontline program of social work. Step Up Social Work and Frontline, they're both hyperlinks on this presentation, and I'll let you do your own homework on those, but they are driving forward the UK government's agenda for postgraduate learning and higher levels of management in social work. So I'll leave you to read those for yourselves. I qualified in 1998 and was working in frontline practice as an unqualified practitioner well before that, but continued in frontline practice until 2008. It was a job that made me laugh very many times. It made me cry a great deal as well. You see the highs of creating a care plan, a care package, or a support process that enables someone to regain control of their life, and the successes that those can bring are profound. But you also see the difficulties, the profound difficulties that people see, experience in their lives, and that potential to make a difference to people's lives who are vulnerable is such an incredible privilege, and it's very worthwhile. And I would encourage people to come into social work. So I hope that you, in your support of applicants, can bring the next generation of social work students to our programs. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'll take some questions. Okay, let's see if I can find these questions now. Okay, I might be joined by Sinead in a minute, but if anybody's got any specific questions, please feel free to type those.
So we haven't got any just yet. I don't know if anybody's typing.
Right. Well, we're here for another 2 hours.
Just whilst we're waiting, Chris did mention the handouts and the presentation. So if you would like to download those, you can actually do them. You can actually do that today. There should be in your control panel a section where it says handouts, and just download that way. We will also make this, so we've recorded this, and we'll make this available on the Southern University's network website, and it will also go onto the other websites of the networks that are taking part in this. So you can view it again if you wish, and you can also pass it on to colleagues that may find it interesting. So in terms of questions, we haven't got anyone there. Maybe you're just really good, Chris.
No, I don't know.
Fantastic. Okay, well, we'll still give you a few more moments. If you do have any questions, you can. But what we would like you to do now is just take part in some of the polls that I spoke about at the beginning. So it's just 3 questions, and I'm going to launch the polls now. I'll give you 15 seconds. You could just sort of give us some feedback about your thoughts on today's webinar. That would be great.
No pressure. Yeah.
And this is the final one. Okay, so thank you all for taking part in the polls. Oh, there is a question. Oh, it's 2.
Not sure my eyes can read that.
Don't worry, I'll read it for you, Chris, it's fine. So the first question is, thanks Chris, very informative. Just going back to the bursary, what do the other students do?
Okay. It's changed over the last few years, the bursary. Students used to get bursary in all 3 years, and then we lost the first year where placements are not present. And originally all those that were in the second year and the third year in all programmes got the bursaries, and now what the central government, the NHS Business Services Agency have done is they've limited it to X number of bursaries across England, and universities are allocated an amount. Clearly for most universities that amount doesn't meet everybody's needs. However, all social work students undertaking practice placements will get £850 per year travel allowance. They get that from the NHS Business Services Agency. Those others that don't qualify for the bursaries, we have a waiting list, so if a student drops out, we can parachute the next student in, but regrettably, that's the way it is at the moment in all universities. No university can guarantee giving everybody a bursary. So that's why I'm saying get your applications in and accept your offers for your individual HEI at the earliest opportunity. That will prioritise that student for the bursary.
Okay, great. And then the next question is, one of your slides you said that applications had to be in by the 15th October 2016.
No, that's when it's open. Sorry, apologies, that's when UCAS is open. So any time from now on, there's different courses that accept different open dates, but generally speaking, health and social care courses accept the first opening date in the UCAS calendar, and so they open the middle of October 2016 and are open right the way through till I think February, but then there's a second application allowance as well within UCAS. So if in doubt, read the site around UCAS. Thanks.
If there are any more questions, please go ahead. I'll mute the mic and we'll stay here for about 2 or 3 minutes. But if we've answered everything, then you're free to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
So we've just had another question in. Oh. Okay, so from Sue Curtis, do students have to undertake the whole range of placements, or can they select an area of interest?
Good point. And again, it's difficult for me to talk about all HEIs, but from ours, we undertake to locate, to secure placements for both placements, 70 days and the 100-day placement. We consult with the student about what are their wants, wishes, and needs and interests. But we also draw upon the knowledge of their individual tutor as to what is appropriate for that individual student as well. So it's a collaborative process. And generally speaking, when I talk to students, I say to them, you may have come in with a preconceived idea about what area of practice you want to go into. For your first placement, do something which is very out of your comfort zone, something different. And you never know, but that might become an area of practice that you're interested in. And retain your final area of practice. So let's say, you're a bit cliched, that you want to come into children's services. Save that for your final placement. And because quite often final placements translate into job offers as well. So yeah, there is consultation, but it isn't always at the point of students being able to choose. We have to be mindful that universities may not have a placement in the preferred area for that student wishes. So there'll be some consultation. Hope that helps.
And the next question is, what proportion of your students are straight from college as opposed to being mature students? So I suppose you could answer from a Portsmouth point of view, but maybe nationwide?
I think nationally it's probably a 50-50 split, but what we are seeing is that we're getting increasingly over the last couple of years more students coming straight from college. So I'm guessing that's saying that the careers transition process is becoming more and more difficult for people. But on our courses at the moment, probably ranges from the youngest student, 18, straight from college, up to 50, early 50s, and probably about a 50-50 split.
Okay. So that was the last question that we had. We'll stick around for another few more minutes. I will mute the mic though, but please feel free to ask more questions. Okay, so we've had a question in from Kerry. So would you say that people make better social workers when they are older and have more experience of life?
Now you're asking me to hang myself out to dry here. I think age is not an indicator of life experience. It really isn't. We've had students come on the course that have been through the care system and have had a really difficult early years experience in life, and they bring a richness to the course. They really do. We've had other people come on the course that have had third, fourth career program, processes. So I think you've got to look at people as individuals. I know that probably sounds a bit kind of copied out, but sometimes some of the younger students need a little bit of life experience, and that's based on the individual really. Others bring a whole range of life experiences that are worthwhile coming on the course. Thank you.
Okay, still happy to take any more questions. Okay, so that seems to be the last of the questions. So we are going to go now. So thank you very much for listening. If you do have any further questions about any other of the webinars in the programme, please feel free to email me. My details have been on the screen for a while now, or you can access them through the Southern Universities Network website. Just make sure there isn't any. No, that is it. So
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.